What's up everybody, we are back again, and today we're going to be returning to an all-time classic on the Twisted World channel, the man, the myth, the motherfucking legend himself, JUMEX.
Yeah.
I wish I could date 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not familiar with JUMEX, I'm really not sure how. After all, he's basically the poster boy for industry plants, as well as being one of those rappers that YouTubers make videos on over and over and over again, rehashing the same old story of his rise and fall. A truly inspiring tale of a kid who risked it all to smoke weed in his classroom in hopes of blowing up as a big-time rapper, only to be posted on No Jumper and get noticed by a mainstream industry label and get picked up overnight. The craziest thing about all of it is that's not even true. For the longest time, people have said that he got picked up by smoking weed in the classroom and getting enough attention that a label would notice him, but in reality, that video was posted in late 2017 and really didn't get that much attention. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was posted on No Jumper, which is pretty cool, that's more than most rappers can say, but it basically only gave him attention for one day's time and it really didn't boost his follower count all that much. It was one of those videos that was like, oh, okay, that's cool, kind of a boot gang type thing, but you forget about it immediately after, you don't go check out the music, and that's not what blew JUMEX up. He didn't blow up until an entire year later when his rich parents got him in contact with a record label known as Cortan. And I bet a lot of you are wondering how I even know that he has rich parents. Well, it's because I ended up talking to a couple of his childhood friends and they said when they would go over to his house he lived in mansions, so it turns out that even his childhood friends don't like this guy. It's actually gotten to the point that he's talked so much shit about so many different people in Chicago that he can't even freely walk around the city. I mean, if you ever watched the documentary that he did on himself, he went to a suburban white neighborhood and he was fully masked up looking around like somebody was going to jump him. Because the main thing about JUMEX is that his ego is completely out of control and has been ever since he was a young kid. Even back in the day before he had any fame whatsoever, he was a spoiled little brat, which I mean makes sense if he had a lot of money growing up. And it seems like after he got that Cortan deal, the guy was going to have a pretty easy ride in life. I mean, all he really had to do was play the label's game, put out music videos, show up and do songs, which were mostly ghostwritten for him, and he would become a big time artist. I mean, sure, there was a lot of people making fun of him online and he had basically no control over his music whatsoever, but I mean, who really cares? You're making money, you're blowing up, that's all that really matters. But for JUMEX, being made fun of is absolutely unacceptable. Even to this day, it's completely unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
After he ended up getting exposed by Progress in that infamous industry plant video, he couldn't help but comment on it, talk about it on his Snapchat, and basically blow it up even bigger than it already was. When a couple of his rapping friends decided that they're going to cut ties with him, he couldn't simply let them go and decided that he would have to dox their home addresses, which I mean is completely unhinged, but what do you really expect from JUMEX? But I mean, you guys already know all of that. That's basically the JUMEX story that's been told for years and years and years, until I ended up doing my video this year and talked a little bit more about what he's been doing ever since he fell off. And recently I actually got a little bit more insight to what really tore down JUMEX's career behind the scenes, although I feel like that should be its own video because it's a pretty complex story with a lot of players involved and I don't really have a whole lot of evidence to back it up. I only have a couple different accounts from different people. So if you guys are at all interested in seeing that, then definitely let me know in the comments below because it might actually make you feel bad for JUMEX, which is something that I never would have expected. But enough about that for right now because I think what everybody's wondering is what has JUMEX been up to ever since I made my video. I mean, after all, we had our big blowout. He ended up getting exposed for being a weirdo, although no victims ever came forward, so I don't really think that it was true.
You better do what you can to take down that video. If you don't want to get fucked, Zane, literally strike that video. You better have all your friends take that shit down, strike it, do what you can, and say, hey, I don't want my name off of it. Because if your name's on there, then I'm suing you, I'm suing him. Dude, I don't give a bro. You better do what you can to get that strike off and get that video off. Because if you don't, I'm gonna do what I can too.
The dude said that he was going to sue me. He ended up calling my phone number and saying that he was going to kill me, but soon after that he ended up blocking me and the JUMEX and Twisted World drama completely came to an end. And ever since then things really haven't gotten a whole lot better for JUMEX. He ended up putting out this documentary about his life that was kind of advertised as the never before told story of JUMEX that the YouTubers wouldn't be able to know. But the whole thing is basically his dad sitting in a room talking about how when he was a kid he had really low testosterone and they had to give him injections to make sure that he'd be able to walk when he was older, and that's basically it.
Found out when Mark was starting school that he was having some difficulties developmentally. He wasn't talking as much as he should have, and we were told that he perhaps wasn't understanding everything that we were saying. and he seemed to have difficulty understanding multi-part questions, and he wasn't growing as fast as some of the children in his grade. So we took him to the doctor under the advisement of a good friend of ours, and the doctor advised, among other things, growth hormones.
I mean, I guess that's a never before told story, but that's probably the type of story that you want to keep to yourself. Imagine if they came out with a new documentary about XXXTentacion and they were like, this is the never before told story. And then half of the documentary was his mom talking about how when he was younger, it was really hard to potty train him and he kept pissing on the wall. I mean, that would be a never before told story, but not a good one. I'm pretty sure the documentary was a little bit rushed. He was probably trying to put it out around the time that I put out my videos because he was getting attention again for the first time in a while. But then after that, he started to fade away again. But it seems like JUMEX has been missing our back and forth because it turns out that he's actually been fighting with a TikToker going by the name of Perpy, who ended up posting a video on TikTok talking about his entire career.
JUMEX has one of the saddest fall offs of all time. Bro, who remembers back in 2018 when this dude was going crazy?
Okay, I don't know why it's showing me the juice, because bro, this guy's like, oh my lord, this guy is so irrelevant, the juice is more known than him.
JUMEX basically ended up commenting on it, saying that Perpy made him cry, before then saying that Perpy needed to work at McDonald's. And then Perpy said, you know what, if you really hate me so much, why don't we get on a TikTok live, and if you can make more money than me, I'll send you $100. And apparently JUMEX really needed that money because he kept pestering him over and over and over again, which leads me to think that JUMEX might be going broke. I mean, the guy has basically had nothing but failed business ventures ever since he got famous. I mean, first of all, he ended up starting up his own clothing brand called Bubblegum Numb, which basically went nowhere. He even tried to sell the entire brand for $30,000 at one point, but I mean, nobody wanted to buy it because it's not popular by any means. After that, he ended up starting up his own recording studio called Cloud Studios. This was basically an old vape shop that he bought in the outskirts of Chicago because apparently he couldn't buy anything in the inner city because people are going to beat him up, and he decided to turn it into a studio where he was going to charge people $150 per hour. But it seems like this shop was way too out of the way for anybody to want to go to for convenience, so really the only reason that you would ever go there is to be recorded by JUMEX, which really isn't going to do much for your career. And on top of that, recently he's also been trying to sell mixing and mastering, $150 for JUMEX to mix and master your song, which once again, I don't think that's really going to do anything for you, and I don't even think he's very good at mixing in the first place. So at this point, I'm not even sure how he's paying the rent on the studio, but apparently he also lives there as well with a couple other dudes, although recently they ended up falling out. So as we already know, back in 2018, JUMEX used to have a rap collective called Sad Boy Suffer, which was comprised of members Kill Jill, I Don't Know Conundrum, Sad Crod, and Romance Planet. But as the year went on, his ego began to grow bigger and bigger and bigger to the point that basically everybody ended up cutting ties with him and the group would eventually fall apart. So I mean, now what is the dude gonna do? I mean, after all, I Don't Know Conundrum was ghostwriting all his songs, so if he doesn't have him to do that anymore, how is he gonna be able to put out music? Well, I guess he could ask Lil Soda Boy to buy a couple more songs, but that's only gonna go so far. And without a collective to back him up, JUMEX is gonna be in trouble, but luckily he had a smart idea. He pulled a cemetery. He started looking at his own fans, the few that he has left, and decided to turn a couple of them into rappers. With the most prominent of these members going by the name of Tokyo's Ghost. Now if you haven't heard of him before, all you really need to know is that he was a really big fan of JUMEX and he decided to actually move in with him at one point, which really wasn't a good idea. I mean, after all, the guy was born in 2006, which means he's only about 18 years old now, and at the time that he moved in with JUMEX, he was around 16 years old and JUMEX was around 22 to 23. And when he was living there, JUMEX would make him do drugs on live stream, make him drink more than he probably should, and basically destroy the kid's life. Although, I mean, if you're going to be moving in with JUMEX, what do you really expect? I believe he even dropped out of school to become a SoundCloud rapper and hang out with JUMEX. I'm not really sure though, because he ended up telling me that he still had one more year in school, so maybe he was only going there after school, but either way, the two of them ended up falling out pretty recently. I'm not really sure what happened there. Apparently the two of them were supposed to do a show together in Chicago, but Ghost Holmes ended up posting on his story saying that he wouldn't be there anymore. I'm assuming this is probably because JUMEX is JUMEX and, you know, they had a fallout over that. And on top of that, he also had another buddy that goes by the name of Scars, who is actually a somewhat popular rapper himself, and the two of them fell out as well. So at this point, it definitely seems like the walls are pushing in on JUMEX. All the friends that he had left are leaving him, and even fans that he brought on board to be his supporters are no longer wanting to fuck with him because, I mean, the dude is a complete egomaniac. And apparently he can't even find a proper manager at this point because apparently his dad is now managing him, as you can see by this, with his dad congratulating him for getting 1 million views on his latest video. And this is really what everybody's been asking me to talk about, his new career in the Spanish market, how everybody's telling me that JUMEX is making a comeback and that maybe he's going to find a new audience over there, which is totally possible. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but the Spanish market really isn't all that competitive. The biggest names over there are people like Drake Bell, Lele Pons, 6ix9ine, Lil Pump. I mean, of course you got some big time names over there like Annual AA and Bad Bunny, but as long as you don't drop music the same week as them, you're almost assured to have a #1 hit. Apparently the Spanish audience really likes people who are funny looking, and I mean, JUMEX basically fits that bill, so it's possible. I mean, maybe JUMEX really can have a comeback in the Spanish market. But the thing is, guys, do we really trust JUMEX? Do you remember how back in the day when he ended up putting out Trapped, it didn't do as well as his label wanted, so they ended up botting the shit out of it and abusing tags to basically push it farther? I remember seeing this song right here a couple days after it came out, and it was only around 30,000 views, and then randomly, like a week later, it was at 100,000, and then 1 million almost overnight. I mean, I'm not saying that a new audience can't discover his music, and maybe that's what happened here, but I really feel like nobody's checking in for JUMEX music, so I don't know how it would get the initial exposure to be put in the algorithm and shown to the right people. Not to mention his TikToks don't do numbers, he's not really doing all that well on SoundCloud, his Spotify isn't really popping off, so it really only seems like he's pulling views on YouTube, and it's probably fake, let's be honest. I mean, it's possible that the fake views pay the same way that the real ones do, but either way, it seems like cheating. But I mean, JUMEX really needs that money at this point. I think the dude's going broke, so we gotta give it to him. And you know how I know this guy is going broke? Because at this point, he's actually trying to charge people to video call him. And on top of that, I also heard a story that he was gonna meet up with a fan to, you know, hook up. And apparently JUMEX ended up asking the girl for $4,000 to hook up with him, which I mean, definitely doesn't seem worth it. I don't think he's all that special, but it's gotten to the point that the dude needs money so bad, he's even willing to himself out. Hey man, a bag is a bag, a win is a win, but I mean, dude, if your music's doing well enough, I don't think you're going to be pulling antics like this. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, it also turns out that JUMEX recently went to a NASCAR Allo show in Chicago, and apparently he was sitting in the bathroom taking a shit on the toilet, and a couple people pulled up and tried to jump him. Apparently even NASCAR Allo wanted to take a swing at him, and if you're wondering why, it's because JUMEX ended up putting out this video right here called Parasite, which is basically a 1-to-1 parody of NASCAR Allo without any credit to him. I ended up talking to somebody who was actually at the show, and he gave me an account of what really went down, so I'm going to play that right here.
Okay, so it's like fucking, it's 3 in the morning at the time I'm recording this, and like, so what fucking happened is that we were at the fucking Chicago show, so we were at the like we're at the flashback like all the way to like the 17th, but we were at the Chicago show, and fucking, I was in the mosh pit just fucking shit up. Watts went in the bathroom. This nigga saw fucking nigga saw a nigga with fucking green hair and shit, like just in the goddamn stall and shit. Motherfucker did like a goddamn, I think he did a person check, or I forgot what he said, and like it ain't look like nobody else in that motherfucking stall except fucking JUMEX. And bruh, that shit was such a fucking missed opportunity, because like, I promise you, if JUMEX ain't fucking pussy out and have security there, Watts would have fucking beat that motherfucking ass, and you know how much I would have loved to see that.
So yeah, it's actually gotten to the point that the guy can't even go to a simple show in his own hometown without fear of getting beaten up by somebody. And the guy must have been aware of that, because he ended up bringing his own security guard. I mean, imagine getting jumped on the toilet at a NASCAR Allo show. That would almost be poetic. But all I can really say is that the guy was very lucky that 83 Hades was not there, because if he wanted that booty, he was going to get it by any means necessary. You could have 100 security guards. If 83 Hades wants you, he's going to have you.
I came looking for man's butt.
Honestly, bro, not gonna lie, would be kind of a cute couple. But anyways, with all that said, that's basically where JUMEX is nowadays. It's really not all that poetic. It's basically the classic rapper fall off, where he's losing more and more money, more and more friends are starting to cut him off because his ego is way too big. He's still fighting with random people online every time they talk shit about him. He's botting views on YouTube to try to make it seem like he hasn't fallen off, but at this point, everybody's got to accept that JUMEX fell off almost 4 years ago, and at this point, he's basically falling into oblivion. If it wasn't for random YouTubers making videos about about him every couple months, he would have completely disappeared at this point. He would have been somebody like Blockboy JB or even Smoke Perp at this point, because it seems like people stopped making so many videos about him recently. And overall, it's just very, very sad. I mean, I know the guy looks like a 16-year-old boy, so a lot of people don't realize his age, but this guy is about to be 25 years old. Imagine being a quarter into your life with no work experience whatsoever, a failed musical career, everybody hating you in your own city, a dumb face tattoo that you didn't even come up with on your own, you actually stole it from somebody named Sky Diamonds. That's right, this uncreative fuck wasn't even able to come up with his own face tattoo, so he simply took it from somebody else that he was in a group chat with. Like, could you imagine dick riding that hard? But yeah, the guy is washed beyond washed beyond washed, and at this point, I really don't have any more advice to give him. Last time I tried to say that maybe he should laser off the face tattoo and try to go back to a normal life, but even if he did that, people would probably still try to beat him up. At this point, all you can really do is delete all your social media, move out of Chicago, go to Mexico, get in with the cartels and rebrand yourself as JUMEX, and then after that, you might blow up in that market. But now for real, I don't think there's really anything the dude could do to save himself at this point, and the worst part about all of it is you can't even feel bad for him. I mean, I actually do feel bad for people like Smoke Perp, who's completely washed up, his money is drying up by the day, he's heavily addicted to drugs and definitely not in a good spot. But for somebody like JUMEX, even if he was addicted to drugs, there's no way that you can feel bad for him because his ego is so big and he shits on so many different people for different reasons that nobody can have any sympathy for him. So at this point, there's basically two options. Either completely play into the hatred that people have for you online and fight with absolutely everybody, become kind of a 6ix9ine like figure, or become a lolcow. But let's be honest, the guy basically already is. So shout out to JUMEX. Thank you for giving me so much content to make about you. It's definitely been fun talking about this dude and looking into his career a little bit deeper, but at this point, I think this might be the last video I ever do on him. I never want to say never, I know people really enjoy it, but at this point, if I'm going to keep making update videos on him, it's going to get sadder and sadder and sadder, and I want you guys to be laughing at these videos, not crying your eyes out thinking, holy shit, what a sad, pathetic excuse for a person. But honestly, if you guys ask for it enough, I might actually do it. I live to please. But anyways, shout out to Knife Gang, subscribe to the channel, we are almost to 20k, I'm almost more relevant than JUMEX. I mean, maybe I already am, not really sure, but either way, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.